Yes, sir.
I'd like to hear what the presenter had to say, because I saw he was very frustrated by what he was hearing. And I am Bob Stetson, and I'm the Secretary of the Council on Aging. And we have been looking and trying and working to get more housing and more possibilities for people to stay in the town of Littleton. This is another way of doing it. It does not do the things that the previous speaker said. It is very restrictive in many ways, but it is less restrictive than what we have now, which means that no one can stay in the town or have an attached dwelling. And I am concerned that the seniors have that opportunity, and I would vote for passing this as it is.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Yes?
Cheryl Gould, 80 Tehadawon Road. I'm also on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I have to be honest that when this first came before the Planning Board, I was very much against it, and as a Zoning Board of Appeals member, for many of the same reasons that Mrs. Hollinger expressed, we were against it. But I attended all of the hearings with Judy, I'm sorry, I can't remember her last name, from the housing. And I've sat at those hearings, and I've heard from the elders who attended those hearings. And I think what the previous speaker, Mr. Stenstrom, said is very true. We just don't have enough options in this town for either empty nester housing, senior housing, or starter homes and our children to stay in this town. Roland Bernier and I have gone back and forth. There is case law that says that no town can regulate how many kitchens are in a unit. So as it is right now, without an accessory dwelling bylaw, I can put an extra kitchen in a house and house somebody. This bylaw intends to do something similar, just codify that. It says you can have another unit, it's got to be in your house, it's got to not look from the exterior like a two-family, so it wouldn't be visible to the neighborhood. It's got a limited number of square feet, it's got a percentage of space as of right. To expand your home to add an addition on for an accessory unit, you would have to still go before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit, which can be conditioned in any number of ways, including it can have a functional dependency or an age restriction. The fire chief and Mr. Bernier expressly stated that if it looks and quacks like a duck, the accessory dwelling looks like a two-family, it needs to be built with the life safety measures of a two-family, so it will be safe for the occupant and safe for the owner. The primary thing about this article is that it says owner occupancy, so you can't have tenement houses in your neighborhood. It has septic restrictions. We are a septic community. We already have septic systems restricting the size of our homes and the number of bedrooms. So you really would end up, and it has percentage limitations, so you really would end up with a smaller unit that would be rentable to a family that needs affordable housing in the town of Littleton. It would create additional options, I think, without doing a whole lot to the two-family. I also just want to point out, maybe town council is more familiar than I am, but I just fell across a state statute that's pending right now in front of the Senate, and it establishes that no zoning or bylaw can regulate accessory dwelling units, provided that at least one of the units, provided that at least one person occupies, the owner occupies, and that the person who's renting has disabilities or is elderly. So it's very close to abolishing the accessory dwelling bylaw as we know it in this town anyway, and I think it's a good bylaw, and I support the planning board after a lot of thinking about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir?
I'd like to move the motion.
Okay. Move motion to close debate. Is there a second? All right. All those in favor of the motion to close debate signify by saying aye. And those opposed? Okay. That's a two-thirds majority. And debate is now closed on the motion. So we'll proceed to a vote. Remembering that it's a zoning amendment, it requires a two-thirds majority vote. We'll try to do this, well, maybe I'll try to see if I can do this on a hand count. If not, my counters hopefully will help me out. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by raising your hands. Okay. All right. All those opposed? Okay, that's clearly a two-thirds majority, and the motion carries, and I declare it a vote. Thank you very much. Moving on to Article 18, another zoning amendment from the Planning Board. Temporary moratorium on marijuana establishments. Moved and seconded by the Planning Board that the town vote to approve Article 18 as printed in the warrant. We'll turn to Planning Board member Peter Scott, Chairman Scott, to give the Planning Board report and presentation.
Thank you. At the November 2016 state ballot, the voters approved the new law legalizing cultivation, processing, sale, and procession of recreational marijuana. The proposed zoning bylaw would establish a temporary moratorium on the cultivation, processing, and sale of recreational marijuana throughout the town, running through the August 31st, 2018. The purpose of this moratorium is to prohibit recreational marijuana uses temporarily while the town undergoes a comprehensive planning process and ultimately adopts a new zoning provision to regulate these uses once they get up and running. August 2018 is roughly the maximum amount of time that will be approved by the Attorney General for a moratorium of this type. Similar temporary moratoriums have been commonly adopted in other towns in response to the new state law for recreational marijuana. So this vote has nothing more to do than simply give us another year to plan on where they're going to be, how they're going to be sold, what can be happening in our town. That's all I'm asking for.
Okay, thank you.
Move to close.
No. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to Article 18, proposed temporary moratorium on marijuana establishments? If not, we'll proceed to a vote on the motion as read. It does require a two-thirds majority because it is a change to the zoning code. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? Okay, that is a two-thirds vote, and I do declare that it passes by the necessary two-thirds majority. Thank you. Article 19 was passed what seems like several days ago, but earlier tonight. So let's move to Article 20, which was the next held item. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to approve Article 20 as printed in the warrant. Selectman Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Article 20 will transfer ownership of the main southern basin of Mill Pond from a private citizen to the town. The land would be donated with no cost to the town. Essentially, this is a process we have to go through to ensure we can clean up Mill Pond.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the, yes, sir, center microphone.
Harvey Atkins, Newtown Road. My question is now, money was appropriated in one of the earlier articles to dredge the lake. Is it both portions of the pond? Is it the south end, the other end, both ends?
It's all a Mill Pond.
It's all of Mill Pond. There's a commercial entity off of Taylor Street right now with doing a lot of gravel moving and a lot of commercial looking work. I wondered if the town knows what that is all about. I know that that's a lot of filled-in area there, and it is marsh around it. I wondered how it's being controlled.
It really has nothing to do with this article, but that area you're talking about on Taylor Street has all been handled and authorized by the Conservation Commission. So
It has, okay.
Yes, they're the folks you got to talk to.
It just looks a lot like marshlands around it, and it shouldn't be filled in, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to speak regarding Article 20? It does require a two-thirds vote because it involves the town acquiring an interest in land, even though it's being gifted to the town at no cost. If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, passes by The necessary majority, two-thirds majority, rather. In fact, it was a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. We'll move to Article 21. This is to acquire land at 31 Boxborough Road for conservation purposes. Requires a two-thirds vote. If it looks familiar, it should. You voted for it in November. This is a different motion, which I'll read for you. I'll move and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to approve Article 21 as printed in the warrant. So the details are in this warrant article as to how it's different. I'll turn to Selectman Melissa Hebert for the explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As was mentioned earlier tonight, this article actually came before us at our last town meeting contingent upon an $800,000 grant from the state, which we did not receive, unfortunately, but the land remains still of interest and, again, is part of a plan to help kind of connect different spaces and trails. And I believe we have a speaker here, Mr. Neal, that will take us through a little bit more details.
Yeah, we have a couple of slides. We just need to really show the first two. The Conservation Trust supports Article 21 and encourages your support as well, mainly because this conservation acquisition checks all of the right boxes. It's been a top priority parcel for several reasons. Linking existing conservation properties together helps us complete the puzzle to form a crosstown path toward the train station. We have a very cooperative landowner in Mrs. Williams who's been actively seeking to conserve this land for many years now. It's at a purchase price that's actually less than the current market value. It's been widely supported at previous town meeting, also currently supported by the Board of Selectmen, the Conservation Commission, and the CPC. We're simply back again this time because the contingent land grant that we were looking for in November didn't come through, not because the property isn't a good fit, but because the grant money that was available ran out before we got up there. And then the new federal grant that we're applying for to take care of the $300,000 gap, the rules for that grant don't actually allow a contingency to be part of the deal in this particular case. So the creative solution was put forth to borrow the $300,000 to fill that gap if the grant doesn't come in. If it does come in, then we won't need to do that at all. Basically, conservation like this is useful to help limit the development that we've had, help reduce the cost of community services that are being put forth in all of the developments that are coming into town. So if you put that all together, this is the right land, the right plan, at the right time. So we encourage your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other boards or committees that had comments regarding Article 21? Oh, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Edward Mish from Grimes Lane. They started harvesting the property and then they stopped. Now, if we purchase this, what is happening? Is that going to continue, or are they going to, it's going to be what it is now? Because they did cut down a few trees, well, quite a few trees, and they're just piled there.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have an answer to that question?
I don't, but Mr. McGyver may have an answer that's possible.
My name's Arthur Camacho, 22 Boxborough. I understand they stopped the excavation because the ground was too wet and they had blown tires. They had planned to continue this winter if we got a good freeze. We did not. Today, a truck was delivered at the site, so I assume they're continuing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Don McIver, Littleton Conservation Trust. I can answer some of that. It's forestry land, and the harvesting is actually for a couple of reasons. One, which is to for good conservation management, to bring in early successional forests and have habitat for birds that are more common to that. And as has been mentioned, the ground has been wet, they're waiting for it to dry out. There are two options. One, if it's frozen, they can do some harvesting, but when it's wet, you don't want to tear up the ground, so it's waiting for it to be a little more dry. It's a harvest that's being done through a forester and also Mass Audubon advising. It's all part of the plan.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak with regard to Article 21? You coming back again, sir?
If it stays wet like this, when are we purchasing this? And if we purchase it, are we continuing the foresting? Or do we stop it? And who takes that money that comes from the foresting of it?
To be honest, I'm not quite sure. It's part of a forestry plan, which, as you know, is done every 10 years, so it's part of a harvest. I imagine the plan will continue, and it's being done so it has environmental value to the area. So it's something that's sort of in agreement. I don't know if the attorney for the owner is here, but I know Ray Lyons, perhaps you allow him to speak a bit.
Okay. Sir, are you the attorney for the property owner?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I'm Ray
Okay,
Lyons.
unless I hear objection, I'll assume a unanimous consent to let Mr. Lyons speak.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead, sir.
Mr. Moderator. Yes, the contract will continue. The operation is under contract, and the person who's doing the work will be allowed to finish, and the funds from that will be going to Mrs. Williams. As Don has mentioned, this was done under the auspices of Mass Audubon. It's designed to enhance habitat. And also, Mrs. Williams has incurred considerable expenses bringing this before the town, and she is offering this at a substantial discount to the town. So this is helping her recoup some of her expenses for doing so. And it's being done in a way that's designed to help the forest to go forward. There's a management plan that Audubon has prepared, and that plan will go with the property. So if you acquire it, you will have the option of continuing with this type of management if the town sees fit.
For the Finance Committee. Right.
Hi, I just
Yes.
have a quick question. It's more out of curiosity because I am in favor of this, but so Diane Prunier, 26.
I'm sorry, I was listening to someone else. You have to give your name and address.
Sorry. Diane Prunier, 26 Boxborough Road. As I said, I'm in favor of this. I just have a quick curiosity question. When will we find out whether we get this grant?
Yes, the grant is actually done in conjunction with the state and the National Park Service, and it's a reimbursable grant, which means you only can get money back after you pay for it. So the timetable, as we understand it, is that around June, the state will make its recommendation, and we expect a favorable recommendation because it's been viewed and we've gotten good comments on it. We've been directed to go for this grant, and we expect the federal government to act sometime around October or November. It'll be done within the calendar year. So essentially, if we go forward with this, it'll be approved. It'll be purchased, and the state will make its recommendation to the National Park Service, and they will comment on it. I should point out for this grant also, there are 2 fiscal years pots of money that are already secured. There's no question about it. It's already been allocated from the federal government to the state, so there's no question about it disappearing, and we expect it to be fairly well rated. We've gotten very good compliments the first time through with the first grant we went through. There just wasn't enough money in that program to go around. So overall, we expect it to be done within the calendar year.
All right, thank you. I'm going to recognize the Finance Committee. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Finance Committee had a split vote, a majority vote against this particular purchase for three reasons. We don't have the luxury to really talk about the intangibles of the use of the property and how it's going to extend some of the recreational use and trail use. We had to stick strictly to the financial piece of this, and there was enough uncertainty that made us wary, the majority of the board wary of the purchase. One is the $300,000 debt accrual with the hope of a grant. And obviously, if you're in finance, probable or hope is a dangerous thing when we're talking about reimbursing money. The second, it is the complete depletion initially of the CPA funds. Why is that important? 6 months from now, a year from now, another piece of property becomes available to us. Maybe that's in a better location, maybe not, but the town would like to purchase. We would definitely, more than likely, have to go in debt to do that. And three, what made it really difficult for some of us is the lack of an inventory of other properties that potentially could be coming down the road for the town to consider purchasing. So it made it difficult on the board. We debated this, and there was enough uncertainty for us to not recommend this particular purchase at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Board of Selectmen?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Apologies, I forgot to mention this. As was mentioned by the FinCom Director, the CPC, Board of Selectmen, and Conservation Commission support this article.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Jared Alpiori here again. Sorry to take up your time, but this seems to be kind of short-sighted. I mean, when conservation land comes available, you can't wait around, you can't hope. Look what happened with the Cooper Farm. I mean, the town was cut out of it. Here you have a willing seller, you have a good price, and the alternatives are, Don, what's going to happen if we don't buy it? It goes into development, and then it's gone forever?
Okay, all questions through the chair,
okay.
please. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
But that would be the question. If the town doesn't buy it, if the town doesn't protect it, what's going to happen to it?
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, let's let the first timer get a shot at it. Yes, ma'am.
Charlotte Russell, 73 Foster Street. 2 points. First of all, I think I've heard from a variety of sources that this is a premier conservation land that people would like to protect in the town. And perhaps someone from the Conservation Commission could speak to the importance of it. Secondly, in the master plan process, quite a few people were interested in connectivity and trails, and the property also has a lot of implications for connecting the rail, as I understand. So perhaps someone could speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Slide that I...
I heard a request for someone from the Conservation Commission to address that question. Is that correct? Is there someone here that could do that? Yes, sir.
Hi, Chase Gervig, Conservation Commission. I don't have a substantial amount to add to what's already been said. This is a high-value piece of land because of the connectivity that it provides between other parcels of open space. And that's a big reason why the Conservation Commission voted unanimously to support the acquisition of this property, both last in the fall and this go-around as well. As far as high-value pieces of land, this is about as good as it gets in Littleton, and we unanimously supported it for that reason.
Okay, thank you.
So perhaps we can put on the slide that shows the map and the connectivity and the various areas there. And have you worked with them, or they?
Yeah, they should have it.
Okay, it's
Sure.
a different
Presentation of
slide on
sorts?
that. But I can mention a little bit about the value of the
It's up
land.
there, isn't it?
That it rates very highly on so-called biomap, what the state does, and also other aspects. It's within the top 10% of the 495 metro area. On various scales,
Okay.
it comes in very high because there's a variety of
Okay, who-
habitats, including wetlands.
Okay, who's going to speak to the slide? Is it,
I'll be happy Sure. to.
yes, go ahead, sir.
Just the first one with the map is perfect to address Ms. Russell's comment. The first one shows the proximity to the Newtown Hill Conservation Land. It's adjacent. And some of the best practices for conservation land is that it's a significant enough parcel, that it links with other properties so that you get a synergy of putting them together both for trail usage for people, but for wildlife corridors, and mixed habitats, which helps animals and things move through the area. You can see on the map that using a combination of existing lands as well as the dotted red line there is the existing gas pipeline that's there, would help us to connect to the commuter rail station. So there's a lot of potential to be able to complete that with this purchase. And then finally, to address the FinCom concern about depletion of the CPC funds, at your last meeting it was also discussed the projected replenishment of those funds, which is projected to be at $750,000 to $1 million over the next year. The uncertainty between $750,000 and $1 million is simply because the matching part from the state is unknown. The big pool will be spread across all of the towns, and so it's not certain whether it will be matched 25%, 30%, something else. So that the funds, that should be a relatively short-term problem while those get replenished.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Judy.
Judy Grandy, Oak Ridge Road. I just want to say that I think this is a huge opportunity for the town, not only to preserve a beautiful piece of land, but also to prevent another huge, ugly development going in with very expensive service costs. I think that it is an investment in the future. We've got great conservation land. We're very proud of it, and I think that this is too good a deal to pass up. Mrs. Williams is taking a considerable, giving us a considerable discount on the land, and I think that it's a wise use of the community preservation funds. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, Jane.
Yeah, Jane Crisfield, Mill Lane. I noticed the speaker for the Finance Committee said that this was a majority vote for them, and I believe it was a 3-2 vote. There are 7 members, I think, on the Finance Committee. I wonder how those members that weren't part of the 3-2 vote would have voted for this great acquisition of property.
We had a meeting just before the town meeting tonight with the petitioners, and we listened to their plea to revote the article because we had 6 people, not 7 tonight. And when it was put to the committee, whether the committee wanted to readdress the vote, I did not receive a motion to readdress the vote. So basically what that did is that kept the 3-2 vote in place, and there was neither of the people that were not there felt strongly enough about the article to bring up the revote. So you can read into that what you will. The Finance Committee had a quorum, and we had, I thought, a half-decent discussion on it, and it was a split vote. I mean, that's just the fact. So some of us voted one way and some voted the other. But that's what happened. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. I think, oh, you got one more. Yes, sir.
Alan McRae, 14 Coughlin Road. I would just like to say that aside from all the merits of the project, one of the things that always comes up when we have an open space purchase before town committee, before town meeting. And it's always, well, we have to buy it or it's going to be developed. And if it's developed, then the cost to the town far outweighs the revenue we get in taxes. Well, since the town will never have enough money to buy every piece of developable land in Littleton, I think that argument should cease. I don't want to hear it again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we're ready to move to a vote. This is like your third trip to the microphone. Do you have new information
Yes.
at this point? Go ahead.
Yes, certainly. About the CPC funding, this is something that actually has been created mostly to pay the huge upfront costs of land. There are only a couple ways you can do it. You can do an override, you can have bond bills. This is actually a very responsible way of funding conservation land. This is why CPA was developed, and is also why the Conservation Trust went with 500 people and had a citizens petition to bring it to the ballot box so we could actually use that type of funding for priority lands. And this is a priority land. It isn't just a land that's there. It's been rated as being one of the top areas. This is an area we've worked in for 20-odd years, and we've accrued parcel by parcel. So, it is prioritized. It isn't just something that quickly comes up, and CPC is a reasonable way of funding this. And, either someone gives you a huge chunk of money, or like a town in Ipswich, you put $5 million or $10 million aside. This is the way of spreading it out. This is responsible funding.
Okay, thank you. It didn't sound like new information to me, but in any event, let's okay, well, I guess we have to hear from Joyce.
Joyce
Go ahead.
Williams. 31 Boxborough Road. Someone mentioned cutting timber. It's only a thinning. We have a stewardship plan that was approved by the state, and it's to improve the forest. We're not destroying it. And the other aspect is to go along with the Audubon Society's recommendation to improve the area for birding.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now proceed to a vote, and I'll remind you that it's a 2/3 majority because we're borrowing money, and we all know that borrowing money invokes the specter of the ballot and checklist. So, if the vote is unanimous, that's a fine thing. We can declare that a vote very quickly. If it's not unanimous, we get to try out our new ballot procedure. So remember, if it's not a unanimous vote, A through K in the gymnasium, right, Madam Clerk? L through Z by last name, I should say, will be in the cafeteria. So let's give this a shot. Okay. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. That's not a unanimous vote, and we'll go to the ballot and checklist procedure. And this is actually a nice lead-in to Article 22, I think. So this could actually help things. So once again, last name A through K, you'll be voting in here. If your last name starts with L through Z, it will be in the cafeteria. So start to move in those directions. Oh, it's a perfect example.
Exactly.
This will never happen again.
Okay, so how do we do this?
We'll finish tonight, all right? Oh, I don't get get to vote. What's that? Well, you could if it was unanimous. If it was unanimous, but
She did that.
you got one.
Yes, I'll have her sooner.
Well.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Well, give me all you got, don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel.
It's not an ambulance 500 Gray Road, the police station. I'm a parking lot for unresponsive male inside a vehicle. And 500 Gray Road.
Hi, my name is Chief Matthew King from the Littleton Police Department. Talk a little bit today about opiate addiction, opiate usage.
This is heroin in its solid form. It's basically a brownish, tan color rock.
Hi, I'm Tom Clancy, Deputy Fire Chief for the Littleton Fire Department. To reiterate what Chief King just mentioned, Littleton is a small community. We help each other. The fire department's here to help you.
There's several caps on it. The medication itself has a purple cap. We'll take that off. On the top, you'll see there's a needle in here. The medication goes in. We want to turn that down. We want to make sure that we don't turn it too hard because this vial is made of plastic and it can break pretty easily. Take off the other end. Attach our nasal atomizer.
It's not a stigma. There's a lot of help out there. We're here to help you. Call us if you need us. Thank you very much.
If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. If you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on that's what friends are supposed to do. Oh yeah. Ooh, ooh, yeah. If you're tossing and you're turning and you just can't fall asleep, I'll sing a song beside you. And if you ever forget how much you really mean to me, every day I will remind you. Oh, find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, you'll always have my shoulder when you cry. I'll never let go, never say goodbye. You know you can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, ooh. You can count on me 'cause I can count on you.
TNN is sponsored by the Littleton Sub Shop, a town treasure since 1971. For great pizza, subs, calzones, seafood, pasta, appetizers, salads, and more, call 486-3553 or stop by the Sub Shop on Littleton Common, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., Tuesday through Saturdays, or Sunday and Monday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., or call for free delivery.
This is the Tiger News Network, your weekly source for current events, sports, entertainment, and interviews covering Littleton Public Schools and beyond. And now, here are your anchors, Gianna Sebdidio and Liev Stamon.
Hello, and welcome back to TNN. I'm Liev, and a warm welcome back to my co-host, Gianna.
Hi, everyone. And yes, I am back to help Liev bring you all the best news of Littleton. As we all know, prom is this Saturday, April 29th. It will be at Mechanics Hall in Worcester, with pictures starting at 4:30 at LHS, with the rest to follow. In addition to the physical preparation of prom, LHS would like to remind you of the dangers of drinking and driving.
Every day, 360,000 births occur all over the world.
In the same amount of time, 151,600 people have also died.
3,287 of those deaths were a result of car accident.
28 of those car accidents were alcohol related.
1 in 10 high school teens drink and drive.
And young drivers under the age of 21 are 17 times more likely to die in a crash when they have alcohol in their system.
Drinking begins with a choice.
We hope the students of Littleton High School choose the right one.
Be safe.
Be safe.
Be safe.
Be safe.
Be safe and make right choices.
The annual town meeting is Monday, May 1st in the Charles Kegg Gymnasium at the middle school. Town meeting begins at 7 p.m. The hot topic this year is Article 4 of the special town meeting, which deals with voting to go ahead with the plans for a new library. We'll have more on that story in next week's broadcast.
Also coming up is 2 weeks of AP exams. So students, after you party this weekend, it's time to get studying.
Be sure to tune in next week for an episode of Fan Alert with Eli and Jenna.
That will do it for this week's news. I'm Liv.
And I'm Gianna, wishing you good news and a safe prom.
If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. If you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. If you're tossing and you're turning and you just can't fall asleep, I'll sing a song beside you. And if you ever forget how much you really mean to me, every day I will remind you. Oh, find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. You'll always have my shoulder when you cry. I'll never let go, never say goodbye. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. You can count on me 'cause I can count on you.
for unresponsive male inside a vehicle. And 500 Gray Road.
Hi, my name is Chief Matthew King from the Littleton Police Department. Talk a little bit today about opiate addiction, opiate usage.
This is heroin in its solid form. It's basically a brownish tan color rock.
Hi, I'm Tom Clancy, Deputy Fire Chief for the Littleton Fire Department. To reiterate what Chief King just mentioned, Littleton is a small community. We help each other. The fire department's here to help you.
There's several caps on it. The medication itself has a purple cap. We'll take that off. On the top, you'll see there's a needle in here. The medication goes in. We want to turn that down. We want to make sure that we don't turn it too hard because this vial is made of plastic and it can break pretty easily. Take off the other end. Attach our nasal out.
People could start to take their seats again. We're going to move on while the votes are being counted. We're going to move on to Article 22. And if you've been keeping score, there are just 2 articles remaining. In Article 22, if you'd refer to the yellow update sheet, you'll see the revised motion that we'll be using for Article 22, and the town clerk will have a count for us shortly on the ballot vote. And coincidentally enough, this involves the procedure for ballot vote. Article 22, moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen, that the town vote to amend Chapter 18 of the Town Code, Section 18-6, manner of authorizing indebtedness, to read as follows. 18-6, manner of authorizing indebtedness. Whenever a 2/3 vote is required by law to authorize the town to incur indebtedness, the manner of voting shall be determined by the moderator, and the vote may be declared as a 2/3 vote by the moderator without a count, and shall be recorded as such by the clerk. However, if 7 or more voters at a town meeting challenge such declaration, then a count will be held by ballot, and a checklist of the voters of the town shall be used. And the following section is just as is printed in the warrant, but the yellow update sheet takes out the strike-throughs and some of the italics, and it's a little easier to read through. And I'm going to turn to Selectman Melissa Hebert for the Board of Selectmen, as this is their warrant article.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. That last article couldn't have been a better example of what this is looking to change. So basically right now, our current bylaw requires that we go to a ballot and checklist if even just one person disagrees with not doing so. So this actually allows the moderator a little bit more flexibility there and can avoid a situation like we just went through for one person going to the ballot and checklists.
Okay, thank you. Now, someone held this about 3 or 4 hours ago. Are they still here? Could they speak to their objection for the reason they held that? Was it you? It wasn't
no,
you,
I wasn't the one who put on the hold.
Oh, go ahead, Jerry. No?
Okay. The way does this article preclude having a hand count for the 2/3? It says here, manner of voting shall be determined by the moderator, and the vote may be declared as a 2/3 without a count. So does that say you can't do a hand count, or you can do a hand count?
You could do a hand count. Sorry.
So yes, you could. Yeah, either way, the town moderator can make that call.
Well, I'll just, for informational purposes, the previous vote, with a bylaw such as this, the moderator could have declared on a voice vote that was an obvious 2/3 majority, even though it was not a unanimous vote, and thereby the ballot checklist would be unnecessary. So that would be an example of how it might be used. Yes, sir.
Brett Bonner, Colburn Lane. Just a quick question. What is the mechanism for the challenge? Is that just someone shouting out that they object, or is there some more formal procedure?
Yeah, basically, yep, you just yell out.
Just in the same way you put a hold on something, you could just stand up and 7 people say, Mr. Moderator, with all due respect, we think you got it wrong. We'd like to have a ballot vote, and that's what would happen.
In that polite of a manner.
Mr. Moderator, Bruce Trumbull, Mill Road, can we move the question, please?
Okay, I could just, I'd like to announce the vote total on the last article. There were 132 ballots cast. 88 were necessary to achieve a 2/3 majority. There were 123 in favor and 9 opposed. So the article passes by the necessary 2/3 majority. And we thank you for hanging in there with us, and we hope the new procedure worked well. It's also, I think it works well with fewer numbers of voters too, but we'll continue working on that for you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak regarding Article 22? It's a general bylaw amendment. It requires a majority vote. If not, we'll proceed to a vote. Well, I guess we've got a...
Moderator. No one seconded. The moderator didn't say it was closed, did he? Moderator.
You can say, I was talking to the clerk when someone thinks they moved the question, so go ahead.
Sir, so Paul Orero, King Street, Littleton. With this, you mentioned that this vote we just had wouldn't have had to go to a ballot if we had this in key, but you've made multiple calls on 2/3 votes by just a simple voice vote that I would question would be 2/3. So why was this past vote slightly different than all the others?
Well, this has to do with the bylaw regarding the manner of authorizing indebtedness.
So I'm wondering.
So this is only for a vote to incur debt.
So it has to be unanimous or 2/3?
It has to.
We only had one borrowing article.
Right, we only had one borrowing article tonight, which was the last one that required a 2/3 majority.
All right, sir. All right.
And so a unanimous vote is necessary to avoid doing the ballot and checklist procedure.
Okay.
Under the current bylaw, this would make it slightly different.
I misunderstood that. Thank you.
That's quite all right. I think we're ready to move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it, and declare it a vote. Passes by the necessary majority. Thank you. We'll now move to Article 24, which, as I said, if you've been keeping score, you realize this is now the last article on the warrant. Everything else has been approved. And now I'll turn to, I'll read the motion first, but then I'll turn to the Board of Selectmen. Moved and seconded by the Board of Selectmen that the town vote to approve Article 24 as printed in the warrant. I'll turn to Selectman Glaby.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This article, in brief, is a direct response to a hearing we held this past January, resulting from the move of one of the liquor licenses that had been held by a business at the common area up to the point in the town's authority to award one more license was triggered a interest from 3 different businesses in the common, including the folks that had held the previous license for the common that was moving up to the point. In any event, out of that conversation came an expressed desire from 2 of the beer and wine license holders in the common area, convenience stores, to expand their allowed use to cover all alcohol. Chapter 138 of the state and state regulations limit what we are able to award without formally petitioning the state. That's what this article would do. So at the moment, we don't have the ability to award any other licenses all liquor licenses in town, and this article would give this board or future boards the authority to do so, either for existing businesses or businesses that may come into existence in the future.
Thank you. Anyone wishes to be heard? Yes, ma'am?
Jan O'Callahan, Dogwood Road. Just
You could come a little closer to the microphone. We could all hear you. Yeah, no, not the height. No.
Two quick questions. So there's a limit on the number of licenses we can have in town, and so this would increase that limit? Is that correct? And is there anybody who could speak to why that would be a good idea? Because it just, my instinct is I don't see a reason to make alcohol more readily available. So I sincerely am curious to know what is the benefit.
That's entirely the town's call, your call. We, as I say, we're bringing this forward because we no longer have the ability to award any further, but there is interest amongst existing licenses, and there's increased activity. There's a lot of liquor licenses for service at restaurants, which has been booming at the Point area, but as far as a retail business, we don't have the capacity to do any more without requesting town meeting to request a legislature. So we're, as I say, we're doing this, or we're making the request only at the, at the instance of determining interest from businesses in town. But as to whether or not the town wants to pursue it or not, that's up to the townspeople.
This is specifically for retail, so restaurants are not impacted.
That's
okay.
under the same statute, but there's a different limit that we're allowed there.
Okay,
Yep.
so based on this, I would just say that I really personally can't think of a reason why we should make alcohol more easily available, but if anybody wants to
We did hold a
disagree with
hearing
me-
on this. We didn't have a whole lot of interest one way or the other. Obviously, the prospective stores showed up, or at least one of them did, and had interest in it, but we didn't get a clear indication from the public at the hearing one way or the other. The board did not take a position on this article.
Thank you. Yes, sir?
I hate to put the chief on the spot, but does the police department have a position on this one way or the other?
Who's the chief?
She's here.
Chief is still here. Chief King?
The police department really doesn't have a position on this. I mean, alcohol is readily available. 2 more licenses are not going to make any real difference as far as who can purchase it or not. The same controls would be in place. I would say this is more about a business perspective than it is a concern of the police department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl
Yes,
Cowley
Cheryl.
Hollinger, 44 Tadawin. I just want to understand, we had 3 liquor licenses in town. Last meeting we had no, because we had 3. We had one on the edge of 2A on Westford, one over by the depot, and then one in the Common. Isn't that 3?
2.
Is the one in Westford actually in Westford?
Yes.
Okay. So we had 2 liquor licenses in town. So I just need to understand this. We approved at the last meeting an additional one. That takes us to 3. So this would take us to 5? No. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
That seems like a lot for this size of town.
Well, that's a subjective judgment you can reach, but the reality is the 3 accommodates 2 existing licenses plus one that will be occurring up at the Point. So there's no increase in activity other than the Point activity with the previous action. This one would allow 2 more, may or may not be issued, townwide.
Okay, yes?
Carolyn Bean, Oak Road. I'm not sure how I'm going to vote on this yet, actually, but I live on the lake side of Littleton, so the Littleton Liquors, that's moving to the Point, right? Hard liquor now. Oh, I thought Littleton Liquors was moving to the Point. That's how I understood it.
I'm going to turn to the Board of Selectmen to explain how many licenses there are and where they are.
Now, I have no interest in any of the aforementioned businesses, but I do understand at least the transaction. The folks that had purchased the it was actually affiliates of Sam Park, the Point developers, who had purchased the liquor license, and in the interim, it was operating at the Common. His expressed desire all along is to move the license up to the Point, so the people who had been operating the license at the Common were left without a license. They're the ones who were granted the license that was awarded in January. But two other Common businesses had come forward at that time, too, and made compelling cases for why they would similarly like to have that opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that wishes to speak in connection with Article 24? Requires a majority vote. If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed? No. I'd say the noes have it, and the motion fails. All right, before I entertain the motion to dissolve this meeting, I'd like to thank you all for hanging in there with us tonight, and hopefully some of the new procedures worked well. And if you have input about that and other things, we'd like to hear from you. I'd like to thank again the Board of Selectmen, the Town Administrator, Finance Director, Town Clerk for their help with this town meeting. I will now entertain a motion to dissolve this town meeting. Okay, second, all in favor? Aye. This town meeting is dissolved. Thank you.